everyone, and thank you for joining us here on the Recruitment Roundup podcast, which is brought to you by BMS Performance. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, BMS Performance is a specialist sales and marketing recruitment consultancy. For the last 30 years, we've been helping businesses across the UK recruit for vacancies at every level. I'm your host, Mike Leather, and every week I'll be joined by a new guest where we'll get stuck into the latest trends in regards to recruitment. We'll talk about insights, we share ideas, we share experiences, and ultimately we look to provide value to fundamentally help you, whether or not you're a hiring manager, a business leader, or part of an internal talent team to recruit smarter, faster, and more effectively. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Recruitment Roundup podcast. I am your host, Mike Leather.
Yeah, I'm the co-host, Sam Musiadira.
And today we are going to be talking about a poll that I put out on LinkedIn. So I thought it was just a useful one to do, just to get a sense of why sales professionals and sales leaders feel like they are missing target, or if you're in software, failing to hit your quota at the minute. And there were 4 options on the poll. So one was competition, because we know salespeople like to blame the competition as a reason that they can't get sales over the line. I'm being facetious there, but it is true. Longer decision-making cycle, which again is something that we do hear a lot about, but one of those things that you can control, but it's also a little bit of an uncontrollable. The third choice was volume of the right activity. And then the final choice was their own capability. So, what do you reckon the results were, Sam?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I reckon probably sales cycle length. It's going to come in first. If I was a betting man, I'd probably go second, maybe competition.
Yeah,
competition.
What's going on third?
And then third, I reckon own capability / activity, like a tie third.
You've got to pick one. You can't have tie.
Fine. Okay, third, I'll go activity.
I'll go activity, and then right. So you're spot on, correct?
Yeah.
So, would it surprise you to learn that capability was a big fat 0? Nobody thought that they were not hitting targets,
and it was their fault
because it was them. It was their fault. Nobody thought there's anything that they can do.
Yeah.
To improve the performance.
Surely
everyone, classic, isn't it? So competition was 39%.
Yeah.
Longer decision-making cycle was 46%.
Oh, okay.
And volume of the right activity was 15%.
Yeah.
What that tells me about sales professionals is that we love to blame the uncontrollables as a reason that we're missing target.
Yeah.
Because you could look at, if you look at these 4 options, volume of the right activity and your own capability, the 2 things that you can actually really influence yourself. You can influence all these things, but your competition, your competition.
Yeah.
You can't control what your competition decides to do. If they want to reduce their prices, bring a different solution out, whatever.
New products.
What do you do about
that?
Yeah. If you're selling to a company and they decide that they want to bring in a consultant to give them a green light on whatever it is you're selling them, then again, you can't really, you've just got to adapt to it. You can't really do anything. So it's quite interesting that, I'd say quite interesting, probably expected if you'd asked me at the beginning of it, what do you reckon the results would be? I'd probably said something similar to that. But anyway, we're going to focus on the top 2.
Okay.
Competition, longer sales cycle length, because they clearly are the 2 biggest reasons as to why sales professionals aren't closing more deals and making more money. And we thought we'll give our 2 pence worth in terms of what our tips might be to improve selling against the competition, what our tips might be to reducing sales cycle length, but also like maybe if you can't do that, remaining in control. Yeah. So this should be a good one, I reckon.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So let's start with competition then. Like, what's your take on that in the sense of why do we think salespeople struggle to sell against the competition? It's probably a good place for us to start.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and I think that the key word that you're talking about there is struggle, right? Why do we struggle to sell against our competition? And when I think about this, it's all about how often are salespeople holding themselves accountable to really get to know what it is about the competition, what they do well as opposed to us. So I think anyone who struggles to sell against something probably doesn't have a good enough understanding of what the competition does, I suppose, what they do well. And there's almost sort of like an intrinsic sort of way of doing things where we're always, thinking about us. But how often are we as salespeople actively, looking to find out what is it about the competitors? What do they do well? What do they do better than us or different to us? What are the nuances? And without sort of understanding that, you're going to struggle to sell against them because how are you going to answer questions that pertain to certain features, certain clinical benefits, if you don't understand what their challenges are and what they do well as compared to you? So I think it boils down to that real top point. Without that knowledge and that understanding of what the competitors are doing, what they're doing well, and how they're trying to sort of draw get closer to you if you're a market leader, then how could you possibly be able to credibly advise how they're different to us?
I wonder how many salespeople actually prioritize learning about the competition. I don't think in our business we don't enough. Some people are a little bit borderline obsessed with beating competition, but like in the sense of do you know what their services are compared to what yours are? I've not heard this terminology for a while. It's popped into my mind, but like a SWOT analysis. You've done one of them against each of your competitors. Like if you're losing, particularly maybe on price, are you losing because of like your product capability, and then trying to find solutions for that? But if you don't know, like you said, like we don't know about the competition, and you don't know why your like companies that you're trying to sell to are choosing them over you, then you're probably going to struggle to get better at selling against them. And then that leads us down another path of how do you find out why you're losing to them? Because quite often, once a prospect decides to go in this direction, be it with you or someone else, to feel like the problem's solved, and they probably don't want to engage you as much. So can you think of any tips we could maybe give to the audience as to how to create that forum of like getting feedback from the prospect that decides to go with someone else over you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great point. And I think about within recruitment in the world that we're in as an example, right? It's about pretty much putting that in as a touch point. And an example from our end would be any single vacancy that we take on, whether we fill the role or not. We need to be making sure that we are getting feedback every single time at every single opportunity to find out what the clients found within our service, what they liked, what they didn't like. So from that piece, it's just about it's a great place to start, having a touch point inserted to fully focus on feedback. So that's within recruitment. If you're within a different industry and you've lost a deal, or again, it's about understanding that and giving yourself that opportunity to ask those types of questions. Why have you decided to go with the competition? What have they done well? What have what have they not done well? We're just giving ourselves that chance. And when we know that, when we've done that analysis, that research, then it's only going to arm you better for the next time round, so that you're sort of better equipped, shall we say, going forward.
Yeah, I think like that is transferable to any sector.
Yeah.
But it starts at that discovery phase, and if you've got a meeting booked with a prospect, being able to front load it there, say, look, we're continually looking to improve and develop. So regardless of whether or not you move forward with us or a competitor, how open are you to giving me 5 minutes to highlight top 3 things that you liked about us, but the top 3 things that you didn't, that you got from someone else, to allow us to improve in future? That would really help us. I think just asking for help is a good thing as well.
Absolutely.
But that could be something that could work really well. I also think as well, from an L&D standpoint, how, as a sales professional, again, this comes back to taking ownership. How much are you pushing your manager or other people on the team to say, can we do some role plays? Against where I can sell against the competition. That'll allow you to practice your own capability of selling your own proposition, and where can that be tweaked, because that could be a reason that you're losing to competition, because you're not actually selling your own proposition well enough. But also getting used to objections as well, objection handling.
And the key thing is those objections, right? You, as a salesperson, you want to feel confident when those objections inevitably come, because they will come. But if they say that your competitors have done X, or they've quoted us Y, or they said that they're doing this, what can you do for me? You don't want to be an person at that, but you know what I mean? When I say person, you're going, because you're not prepared. You want to be,
and just lose credibility.
And lose credibility immediately. So you want to be calm, you want to be confident, and you want to be measured, and you want to, deliver an articulate response on how you stack up versus the competition.
Yeah, this is also a good opportunity for us to plug SecondBody.
There we go. Yes.
But SecondBody is definitely a solution that could help with this. If you are a sales leader listening to this, and you're finding that your sales team is struggling to sell to competition, and you haven't got the visibility to hear them in meetings or hear them on the phone, then SecondBody could definitely be a platform where you can get them role playing, objection handling, to help them improve how they sell against the competition. So just thought we'd plug that one in there.
Yeah, and before we see, how good are the leaderboards, by the way, Mike? I think that's probably one of my favorite bits. And we're talking about embracing that learning culture and the marginal gains to improve. And how good are the leaderboards? And you're still trying to learn, but you're still seeing Georgia, who's doing better than me, and she's got a gold star and I've got a silver. Why have I got a silver? I want to be better than Georgia. So it's all those little things. So just another little second plug over.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's move on to what was the biggest problem. Really marginally, but it was 7% higher, which was longer decision making cycle. It's tough on this because, like, if you say to a salesperson, what's the reason that we aren't closing that deal? They pushed it into January. They decided to spend the budget on something else. Such and such has got involved from a different department. Whenever I hear that, what immediately I think is that, well, it's a problem with us, like in how we've qualified that. And that comes back to questioning. Now, that's also not saying that sales cycles have increased, in terms of the decision making process. The length of that has increased, and we know that we don't have to bang on about the reasons why that is. Like, companies have felt under the pump, under pressure over the last couple of years, so they have tightened the belts compared to 2022, for example. So if we just take this on face value, that longer sales cycle is actually a thing, and it's causing a big issue. Where would we start with this one?
Well, you've sort of gone into the answer when you've explained the question, which I love. And I think where we've got to start is looking at ourselves and our approach, and that approach, I mean specifically our qualification process. And what do I mean by that? I mean utilizing, the top-down approach in terms of making sure that we are identifying all those key stakeholders and all those things that we need to make sure that the deal gets signed off right from the word go. And the key thing is to make sure that we've identified those people, right? So the qualification process has to be, second to none and done at a high level, because the last thing that you want is, 2 weeks down the line, or depending on what kind of product, if you're selling capital equipment, if that's a longer sales cycle, which inevitably will be, or if you're selling recruitment services and you need to get sign off from, an HR manager, but you've been dealing with the sales director the whole time. The key thing is that qualification process, and utilizing the top-down approach, just to make sure that when you are selling, when you are engaging, when you are prospecting, you're bringing all those key stakeholders along that journey from prospect to close.
Yeah, so we touched on quite a lot there. Yeah. So decision-making units important. How does someone go about identifying everyone in that decision-making unit? Because there might be a time whereby, like, the first meeting they've got is just with a regional manager. It's not a sales director.
Yeah.
What would you say to that, do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question, Mike. There's two ways that I would think of on the back of what you were saying. But I think the very first thing is you got to ultimately do your research first. I'm a big advocate for, researching the product that we're looking to sell, or the service that we're looking to sell, in terms of finding out by using tools like, LinkedIn, who are the key players, who are the key stakeholders that we need to speak to within our sales cycle. So the key thing from my end is, have I done my research? Have I looked at the size of the organization? Have I understood who's probably going to have some form of buying power for any new product or service that we sign up? So that's point number one. And then once we've done that, hoping that we've done that correctly to as best as we can, you've touched on the fact that we've got this meeting and this meeting is booked. We need to qualify that within the meeting. So the fact that we're speaking to, an example, maybe an HR manager, but they are using an example of sales recruitment. I think within our industry, it's very rare that person there'd need to be some form of agreement with some of the line managers or the people that are further involved in the process. So it's all about asking that question when you're within that meeting, right, Mr. Customer, who else is involved within that process that would, find this to be relevant before we sign off, asking that question directly. Do you have authority to sign off on fees? Who else would be involved and that we're not speaking to right now that, could and should be involved?
What would their opinion be on this solution? To try and understand where the blockers are gonna be. 100%. 100% with all of that.
What do you think? Do you feel like we've missed anyone out on I suppose those two?
No, I think my tip would be along the lines of what you said, understand who in the organization would benefit from this solution, map out who the decision makers are going to be, so who's going to hold buying power, but who's also going to have the biggest problem, who the influencers, who sits under them, that we can try and engage with as well through multiple different channels. Also really understand in that initial meeting, try to get a sense of what is actually driving the sales cycle, like what are the triggers going to be for you to be able to trim that down. Like what are the triggers going to be to move it to the next stage. And I think this is like a key point as well, and we see this in our business. It's when you're closing that meeting, always having control of the next step, not just leaving it as we'll follow up with an email. When would be a good time for us to discuss further with other stakeholders? Give me a shout next week.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? Too often, like, that happens, and it comes back to the closing piece. But I think being really honest when you're closing as well, to try and weed out all the reservations. So look, I'd love to take this forward. When can we get another date in? Who can we invite? Why do you think they would want to join this meeting? What benefit could this product solution have for them? Also, just be honest with me now. On a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being there's going to be no interest at all from them, which would stop this moving forward. where would you rate the chances of this all falling through?
Yeah.
I might say 10 out of 10. It's definitely going to fall through. Or 0 out of 10. Like, we really like this. Like, it's absolutely what we're looking for. Like, what would be the reasons why you wouldn't want to set this up? Why wouldn't you want to do this? Just tell me now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy. You know, I'm big enough and grown up enough to take a knock back. And if you can create some form of verbal contract with them like that, which they can still go back on, then you're doing everything you can. And then it's a case of, great, even if then they're saying, well, yeah, just call me next week.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I'm free between 2 and 4 on Wednesday. I'll send over a placeholder.
Yeah.
You put that in there. So it's not necessarily going to allow you to decrease the length of the sales cycle, but at least you're going to feel like you're in control of it.
Yeah.
And as a sales professional, we always want to be in control of the next step in the process. So you can say to your manager, this is what's happening. Yeah. This is when it's happening. These are the reasons why. This is why they want this next meeting. This is how we can help them solve the problem, etc. Like, you've got to know the why. Why do they want to meet with you? Yeah. So we always say that, don't we, in our business? Like, why do they want to meet with you? Why did they want to book that follow-up meeting?
Yeah.
Why did they want this solution? If you know all of that, then you've got a chance of controlling the sales cycle and also decreasing it, because if the problem is big enough and it's causing enough issues in the business, they're probably going to want to solve it.
Yeah.
But most people don't think they've got a problem, which is down to the salesperson to shine a light on a potential problem. So yeah, I mean, do you think we've missed anything off in that piece?
No, I think we've hit the nail on the head, and I really love that idea of almost that verbal contract and, you know, maintaining control in that qualification process. And I think a lot of decision makers will respond positively to that. You know, I think it takes a certain confidence within a salesperson to be like, you know, on that scale of 0 to 10, you know, tell me now, you know, I can handle it. What are the chances of this falling through? And just having that bravery to be able to ask that question, I think you'll be more successful than not. Really, so I really love that point.
Most salespeople sounds strange, but they're almost scared of asking those difficult questions in case it loses them a sale. When actually you would rather give the prospects an opportunity to qualify themselves out, because guess what? If they don't, then there's genuine interest.
Yeah, exactly.
So you win anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they do qualify themselves out, then save yourself time, do some more prospects and find some more business. Some meetings. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I think it's my turn, isn't it? Interview question of the week. Yeah.
Really excited to hear what you've got to, what you've got to share for some of the newer listeners that have started following us on our journey. Every week we try and share an interview question or a sales tip, and obviously this week it's Mike's turn to be able to, you know, share an interview question. So if you're in the process of recruiting and you're stumped on, you know, what kind of question to perhaps ask as part of your process, Mike, the floor is yours for you to share what you're thinking this week.
This is a dead simple one, but having prepared probably thousands of candidates over the years for interviews, and also asked this in interviews as well myself, it's surprising at how difficult people find to answer it. So it is, why do you want to do this job specifically? So not why you want to join the company. Why do you want to do this job? And I find, rather than asking this at the beginning of the interview, ask it towards the end of the interview, maybe even your last question before you move on to them asking you questions, because that also gives you an opportunity to see how much information have they retained throughout the interview. Because naturally, hopefully, you're talking about the business, you're going for the background, you're giving them little indications of the things that you're looking for, and then asking that right at the end of the interview gives you an opportunity to obviously assess, you know, what research they've actually done on the role, their understanding of the job, why they think they're a fit, but also how much have they learned during that interview that they can then build into that question. So it's a really simple one, but it's super effective, and positioned at the right point of the interview, it can be really good. So that would be my one of the week.
Love that, Mike. Love that.
Cool. All right, nice one. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Hope you enjoyed that, and we'll be back next week with another episode. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Recruitment Roundup podcast. Thank you very much for listening to the show, to watching the show. We really appreciate your support. It would be absolutely fantastic if you could give us a rating on Apple, on Spotify, give us a review. Any feedback really helps and is massively appreciated. So thank you once again for joining us, and we will hopefully see you again next week.